Harvesting maple syrup has a long history in Minnesota, dating back to the 1500s when Native Americans transformed sap into maple sugar. Today, Jerry Jacobson of Vergas, Minnesota, has perfected his method of making maple syrup by realizing that winter weather conditions have a direct effect on his harvest in the spring.
My name is Jerry Jacobson. We're in Vergas, Minnesota. Jake Syrups and Natural Products is the name of our company. So did you get which ones here?
I didn't know.
Well, I actually retired in '94.
You want to get the ones closer.
You know, I thought, well, okay, now what am I going to do? You know, do I want to just hunt and fish? Do I just want to watch TV? Or do I want to have a hobby that gets me outside? We thought, well, maple syrup would be a good thing to do. So we started out with a couple hundred trees. A lot of people like the syrup, and so next year we did 300 trees, and now we're up to about 2,000. Not much in that one. Generally, our season starts about March 9th, and it takes us about 2 weeks to tap the 2,000 maples that we are getting sap from. Really full. And each tap that you put in a tree generally will give you 10 to 12 gallons of maple sap. It takes 40 gallons of maple sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. Of course, maple syrup only runs in the spring when the temperatures are above freezing and you have freezing nights. So you have a very small window of opportunity to get the maple sap from the trees. It's about 3 weeks in Minnesota. Out east, they have 5 or 6 week seasons. Pure maple syrup is only made in North America, and there are only 19 states in the United States and 4 Canadian provinces that make maple syrup. And Minnesota is the furthest west state to produce maple syrup commercially. The people that first started making maple syrup in North America were the Native Americans. They didn't make syrup, they made maple candy or sugar because it was easier to carry around. When the Europeans came, they learned how to make maple syrup from the Indians. Well, the Europeans came with their metal pots, and they could boil the sap in metal pots. What did the Native Americans use? They didn't have metal pots. What they did is they would take hollowed out logs, and they would take stones and heat them in a fire. And when the stones were hot, they'd take it and they'd put it in the maple sap. And it would heat up the sap and cause evaporation. They'd take the stones out and heat them again. And of course, after they were introduced to the metal pots and stuff, then of course, they would use them too. Before we had a reverse osmosis system, we had to boil every bit of maple sap to get a gallon of syrup. And as I'd mentioned before, it takes, on average, 40 gallons of maple sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. The reverse osmosis will take out about 75% of the water from the maple sap before it hits the evaporator. So when it hits the evaporator, instead of 40 gallons, now all it takes is about 10 gallons of concentrate coming in to make a gallon of syrup. To me, it's kind of nice just to think about the fact that you're not going to have to spend all day boiling. Once we have time to actually bottle, we have to take it all in here and finish it. Now, syrup coming off the evaporator has a lot of, they call it niter or sugar sand in it. It's very thick mineral deposits that stays with all the syrup. So you have to get that off the syrup in order to bottle it, so that you know, when you display your bottle, it's nice and clear. So what we do is we take all that syrup that we've made off the evaporator, we put it in this pan, and we have to heat it up to 211 degrees. If it's too thick, then we have to add a little distilled water to it. If it's too thin, we have to boil it a little bit longer. Then, once we're sure that we have the right density on our syrup, we run it through a filter press. In order to get the syrup through this particular material, you have to add diatomaceous earth to the syrup. It's crushed ancient sea creatures. It's shells. It coats the paper so that the molecules of the maple syrup will pass through them. It's kind of like water on gravel. When you bottle, the minimum temperature in order to kill any bacteria in your bottle and to seal it is 180 degrees. So generally, if we bottle it at 200 or so, it's probably 190 when we actually cap it. So we're going to get a good seal, and there won't be a problem with spoilage. So it takes us about 4 days of bottling to complete 400 gallons of syrup. This is considered grade A dark syrup. I can show you contrast of what that looks like compared to something that's either a light or a medium syrup. And we sell a lot of different containers, fancy bottles, different shaped bottles. We do it in glass and plastic, so. Nothing like pure maple syrup. If you've never had it, it's a real treat.
Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.